Hi everyone, welcome to a beginner's tutorial for new Blender users. This tutorial isn't meant to be professional, it's meant to be casual and easy to follow along, hopefully. This is my first time making a tutorial for Blender, and I've only recently gotten into it, but these are some of the tips I found, and some of the useful things I picked up through many tutorials, compiled into one, alongside a guide that you can follow along. So this tutorial will be going over the UV tab that you can see right here. Now, UV grids and UV unwraps are quite complicated and challenging for new users who have no idea about texturing. In simplest terms, a UV unwrap is the shape of a 3D object laid flat like a 2D item. Think of it like a cereal box where you've cut up all the edges and laid it flat. Kind of like that. Here's the UV unwrap of a cube on the left, and here's the 3D version. Now, we're not going to be doing it on a cube just for this demo, because I think it would be a bit more realistic to show you what it would be like on a more complicated model. So I quickly whipped together a quick cylinder with a little indent inside of it. You can see the wireframe right here. Nice and simple, got some bounding edges, midpoint. Now, we head over to the UV editing tab, and we select this. We can head over to edit mode, and we can see the auto unwrap that Blender has given us. Now, this unwrap is not very optimized and can cause some issues, especially where it borders out of the box at several points. So to fix that, we're going to add one big seam down the side. We're going to do that by pressing Alt and left clicking all of this side. And then we're going to right click and we're going to click, sorry, it needs to be in edge mode. Then we're going to click Mark Seam. I'm just quickly going to swap into sculpting and editing mode. That's not needed for the tutorial, I just made a mistake. So now it's a little bit of a shorter menu. Now, this on its own can create a bit of a better unwrap, like this. In fact, before any of this, we should have been starting with selecting the object, going up here to Object, and clicking Apply to Scale. Alternatively, you can also press Ctrl A and do Scale there. Now back to the UV editing tab. We can see just the seam down the middle has cut the object in half, except for the middle point. Now, to make this a bit more cleaner to look at, instead of having all this stretch here, you're going to want to head and add one there, one there, again holding Alt, right click, mark seam, press A, U, and then unwrap. This creates two little circles, one for the top face, one for the bottom. And then we've also got our two side ones. Now, for this tutorial, I'm going to make it a little bit more complicated than that. I'm going to add one there and one there. Sorry, one here and one there. So that this own little indent has its own little unwrap. If I click unwrap again, we can see it separated there. If you want to change how you can select these, because right now I'm only able to select vertices, you head up here to select whole islands all at once. Now, this long and slightly curved UV is okay, but it could be a bit better. To make it a bit better and slightly shorter for if you were going to pack down your UVs if you had multiple objects, which we'll get onto that later, we can go over here, shift select all of these till we get down to the bottom, making sure not to have any inside the two red circles we made before. I'm going to mark these seams, press A again, press U, and unwrap. You can see that this has now separated them. You see that those are close, but they aren't touching, so it's fine. This creates a little bit of a need to unwrap. Right. Now the next step that I like to do is you want to head over to UV, this little UV 2D area, press A, head over to image, new, call it something like UV_grid. Where it says generated type, change that to the UV grid and click OK. You'll see this pop up. Now, only this side will have changed. To make it so we can see it on the actual 3D object, you want to head down to here, the little red circle, click new, and then head down to where it says base color, click the little yellow dot, and head over to image texture. And you see where it says the little image type icon, you want to head over to UV grid. You might see it apply to the object. If you don't, that's fine. You need to head over to shading. You can see it's applied there. However, two very important things are missing here. So to make your life easier, head over to edit, head to preferences, search for an add-on called Node Wrangler. You can see I have it enabled already, just make sure that is enabled. Head down here, click on the one that says UV Grid, the little orange tab, press Ctrl and T, and it will create these. Now ensure UV is plugged into vector, and the vector is plugged into the vector of the UV Grid one. Head back to UV editing. Now if you still don't see a texture here, scroll over here, just click this little icon. This will put you into shading mode. Now we can see how our UV checker grid deforms to the 3D object. Now you can see near the seams, there's slight bending. On the bottom, it's completely fine. On the top, also completely fine. Now if you want to check for distortion on the 2D area here, you can have all of this selected on the 3D area. Head over here to this little circle with a white circle behind it. Click the little drop down arrow and click display stretch. Then click area. You can see the slight bends, and if you want a little bit more precise, have it on angle, and you can see that where it bends, you can see the issue arise. Now this usually isn't an issue. However, if you want to make it a bit more straight and narrow, you can either straighten them out yourself, or there are tools in Blender where if you select it all and you go to, if you scroll back over and you hit the edge mode and you select just the edge, you can actually straighten it. Oh, whoops, must have had more than one selected. Yep. So if you have it on vertex mode, you select just the edge, you can click auto align, and you go through all of them, and auto align. Now I'll be honest, I don't know too much about this tool, since I don't end up finding myself using it a lot. However, it can be useful for those who want a bit more of a straighter UV. I'll just do a few. And you can see there, it's a bit more straight with a slightly less deforming. Now, the next step that I'm going to show you is just a useful thing for if you have multiple objects and you want them all on one UV grid. So you have your collections over here, and if you want to, you can shade auto smooth this just so it looks a bit nicer. However, I'm going to press Shift and D, duplicate the object, so I have two. And now if I select both, I go to UV editing, I can see the UVs for both. It appears it's already done it for me. However, if it doesn't do it for you automatically, you have to have both selected. Go into here, press A, so that everything gets selected. And you want to go up here to UV, Pack Islands, changed it so that rotation is off because you don't want to allow Blender to rotate the UVs. Have the margin of somewhere around here so that they don't end up touching. Click OK. This might take a second. Once it's done, head back up to UV. And if you have even more, you can click Average Island Scale so that they all end up the same size for different objects. That's it for this tutorial. Hope it helped, and happy modelling. See you around.